When you open your eyes in the morning, what do you feel first? That familiar heaviness settling on your chest, like a weight you've carried so long you forgot it wasn't always there? Do you wake into emptiness, as if you've opened your eyes in a world where no one thinks of you, where no one wonders how you slept, where your existence feels like a whisper in an empty room? I know because I lived there for years. I woke each morning to silence that felt like judgment, to mirrors that reflected someone I didn't recognize anymore, someone who had forgotten what it felt like to be cherished. You may think you're broken, that love has passed you by, that you're somehow unworthy of the tenderness you see others receive so easily. But here's the quiet truth your heart has been waiting to hear. You have never stopped being loved. You've only forgotten how to feel it. I remember the morning everything changed for me. It was after my divorce, in that small apartment where every corner echoed with loneliness. I had been waking up for months, feeling like an abandoned building, hollow and forgotten. The bathroom mirror showed me a woman who looked surprised to be alive, as if she couldn't quite believe she'd made it through another night of sleeping alone with her sorrows. I was brushing my teeth, and the silence felt so complete, so absolute, that I could hear my own heartbeat. And suddenly, I realized something profound. My heart was still beating. It had beaten all night while I slept. It had been faithful to me through every disappointment, every rejection, every moment I felt unloved. In that ordinary Tuesday morning light, I placed my hand over my heart and whispered words I had never said before. Life loves me. The words felt strange in my mouth, foreign, like speaking a language I'd heard but never practiced. My throat tightened. Tears came without permission. I realized I had never, not once in 43 years of living, told myself that I was loved. I had demanded it from others, chased it, begged for it, but never once offered it to the one person who had been with me every single day of my existence. That morning, I made a promise to myself. Every single day, before the world could tell me who I was or wasn't, before anyone could confirm or deny my worth, I would remind my heart of what it had always known but forgotten. I would speak to myself the way life had been speaking to me all along. Through every sunrise, every breath, every moment of grace, I had been too busy to notice. Sharing this story with you isn't easy. These were the moments when I felt most alone, most unworthy. But if you recognized your own ache in my words, if something in your chest stirred with recognition when I spoke of waking into emptiness, then perhaps you're ready to walk with me through this journey. Every week here, there's a new path back to remembering what has never left you. If your heart whispers yes, if something in you is tired of waking up hungry for love, then subscribe when that feeling moves through you. Now, let me show you exactly how to transform your mornings from emptiness into the gentle recognition that you are, and have always been, deeply cherished. In the next 60 minutes, I'm going to give you the exact words that turned my mornings of ache into moments of quiet celebration. These aren't just affirmations. They're the language your heart remembers from before the world taught you to doubt your worth. But first, you need to understand something that will change how you see your morning awakening forever. Before you move, before you check your phone, before you let the world rush in with its demands and distractions, I want you to experience something. If you're not lying down right now, that's perfectly fine. If you are, even better. Place one hand over your heart. Feel that rhythm. Your heart has been keeping that beat all night, faithful and true, even when you weren't paying attention. This is not just an exercise. This is a homecoming. You're about to speak to the part of yourself that has never stopped loving you, even when you stopped loving yourself. Even when everyone else walked away, your heart stayed. Even when you felt abandoned by the world, your heart kept singing its quiet song of devotion. I'm going to teach you 3 phrases that will transform how your body feels when you wake. These words aren't magic, but they are medicine. They're the conversation your heart has been waiting for your entire life. As we do this together, remember that you don't have to believe these words yet. You only have to be willing to say them. Willingness opens every door that criticism has closed. Close your eyes if you can. Breathe with me, in slowly, feeling your chest rise like the sun rising over the horizon of your ribs. Hold for just a moment. Now release, letting everything that doesn't serve you flow out with that breath. Again, in slowly, drawing in not just air but the possibility that this moment can be different. And out, releasing the story that says, you are unloved. Now we begin. The first phrase, whispered like a secret you're telling your own soul. Life loves me. Don't think about it. Don't analyze it. Just let the words fall from your lips like drops of honey. Life loves me. Feel where those words land in your body. Do they settle in your chest? Do they make your throat tight? Do they feel foreign or familiar? All of these responses are perfect. Your body is learning a new language. Say it again, still in a whisper. Life loves me. Notice if your breath changes. Notice if your shoulders shift. Your body believes every word you speak to it. This phrase isn't a hope or a wish. It's a recognition of what has always been true. The air you breathe loves you enough to fill your lungs. The sun loves you enough to rise each morning. Your heart loves you enough to beat without your permission. One more time, whispered with tenderness, life loves me. Let the words rest in your chest, like seeds in fertile soil. Now the second phrase, spoken in your normal voice, clear and unhurried. I am loved right now. Not someday, not when you fix yourself, not when someone else decides you're worthy. Right now, in this moment, exactly as you are, with all your perceived imperfections and beautiful humanity, you are loved. Say it. I am loved right now. Can you feel the difference? Speaking it aloud sends vibrations through your entire being. Every cell hears this declaration. Your nervous system begins to relax because it's receiving a message it has been starving for. Safety, acceptance, belonging. Again, with more confidence, I am loved right now. Let your voice carry conviction, even if your mind hasn't caught up yet. Once more, I am loved right now. Feel how your posture changes when you claim this truth. Feel how your face softens when you stop fighting against love and start receiving it. The third phrase is spoken with quiet authority, as if you're stating a law of the universe that cannot be broken. Love finds me always. This isn't about romantic love, though that may come. This is about the love that flows through everything, the intelligence that orchestrates every sunrise and every heartbeat, the force that has been guiding you even when you felt lost. Love finds me always. Say it like you're making a declaration to the cosmos. Love finds me in the stranger's smile, in the warmth of morning light, in the loyalty of my own breath, in the faithfulness of my heartbeat, in the simple miracle that I am here, alive, aware, capable of giving and receiving love. Again, love finds me always. Let this truth settle into your bones. You don't have to search for love because love is searching for you. You don't have to earn love because love is your birthright. You are not waiting for love because love has been waiting for you to notice it was there all along. One final time. Love finds me always. Rest in this knowing. Let it fill the empty spaces where doubt used to live. You've just fed your heart words. It has been hungry for perhaps your whole life. Some of you may have felt warmth spreading through your chest. Others may have felt tears coming, not from sadness but from relief, like coming home after a long journey. Some of you may have felt resistance, your mind saying this is silly or untrue. All of these responses are perfect because they mean your heart heard you. If your heart could write in the comments right now, what would it say? Would it whisper, "Thank you for finally talking to me this way"? Or, "I've been waiting so long for these words"? Or maybe, "This feels strange, but I want more"? Write whatever feels true. When you read the other comments, you'll see that hearts speak the same language everywhere. They all say the same thing. I was hungry, and you fed me. Something has shifted in your chest, hasn't it? Even if it's subtle, even if you're not sure what it is, something is different. That's because you just did something revolutionary. You just spoke to yourself the way life has been speaking to you all along. But why do these specific words have such power? Why does your body respond like a flower turning toward the sun? Let me show you the profound truth about how your heart actually works. You may have felt something during those 3 phrases, or you may have felt nothing at all, or you may have felt resistance like a wall rising up in your chest. All of these responses tell me something beautiful. Your heart was listening, even if it disagreed, even if it doubted, even if it felt scared to hope. It was paying attention. And that's all we need to begin this transformation. For 40 years, I spoke to my heart like an enemy. I criticized it for feeling too much, for wanting love so desperately, for being hurt by people who didn't deserve the power to hurt me. I thought I could shame my heart into being stronger, more independent, less needy. But hearts don't respond to shame any more than flowers respond to darkness. They respond to light, to warmth, to the patient tending that love provides. What I discovered changed everything. The heart isn't just a muscle pumping blood. It's an organ of emotional intelligence with its own neural network, its own way of processing and storing information. Scientists now know that the heart has over 40,000 neurons, its own complex nervous system that communicates with the brain in ways we're only beginning to understand. When I speak loving words to my heart, I'm literally feeding it the neurochemistry it needs to feel safe and open. Think of your heart as a tender plant that has been living in drought conditions for years, maybe decades. Every critical thought, every moment of feeling unloved, every experience of rejection has been like withholding water from this plant. It hasn't died because hearts are remarkably resilient, but it has learned to protect itself by closing, by expecting less, by preparing for disappointment. When you say life loves me, you're offering the first drops of water this plant has received in a long time. It may be suspicious at first. It may not know how to open to receive this nourishment because it has been closed for so long. But plants know water when they feel it, and hearts know love when they hear it spoken in their direction. The mind can argue with love. It can list all the reasons why you're not loved, all the evidence of rejection and abandonment. But the heart speaks a different language. It responds to tone, to intention, to the quality of attention you bring to it. When you place your hand on your chest and speak words of love, your heart doesn't analyze whether you deserve those words. It simply receives them like rain. But 3 voices will try to stop you from continuing this practice, and I want you to recognize them when they appear so they cannot steal what belongs to you. The first voice says, "This feels forced and fake." This voice comes from years of emotional starvation. When someone who has been living on crumbs is offered a feast, it feels too good to be true. This voice is trying to protect you from disappointment by keeping your expectations low. When this voice appears, breathe gently and respond, "I'm learning to receive love naturally. This is practice, not performance." Remember Dahlia, a teacher from Oregon, who told me she felt ridiculous talking to herself until her 6-year-old daughter overheard her morning affirmations and said, "Mommy, you sound happy when you wake up now." Sometimes our hearts know the truth before our minds catch up. The second voice says, "But life doesn't love me. Look at my circumstances. Look at what happened to me." This voice confuses events with essence. It thinks that because painful things have happened, love must be absent. But pain is not proof of love's absence any more than clouds are proof that the sun doesn't exist. When this voice speaks, respond gently. Circumstances change, but love is constant. I am learning to feel love even in the midst of challenge. I think of Marcus, who lost his job and his marriage in the same month, who started saying, "I am loved right now," every morning, even when it felt like the biggest lie he'd ever told. 6 months later, he realized it was the truest thing he'd ever said. The third voice says, "Words don't change reality. This is just positive thinking nonsense." This voice doesn't understand that words are seeds and reality is the garden. Every thought you think is creating the neural pathways that will determine how you experience your life. When this voice appears, respond with quiet confidence. My words are creating my experience. I choose words that heal rather than words that harm. Remember that your body believes every word you speak to it without question. It doesn't argue, it simply responds. Your heart is responding to these words right now, isn't it? Even through your resistance, even through your doubts, something in your chest is softening. If you want to continue this conversation with your heart every week, if you want to explore new ways to remember what you've always been but forgot you were, then subscribe when your soul whispers that it's ready to be loved consciously. This isn't about fixing yourself. You were never broken. This is about remembering. Now that you understand why your heart responds to loving words like a flower responds to light, Let me show you different ways to water this garden of self-love that you're cultivating each morning. You have the foundation now, those 3 sacred phrases that can transform any morning from emptiness into fullness. But love, like water, can flow through many different channels. I want to give you options, different ways to speak to your heart so you never run out of ways to remember how cherished you are. The first practice I call the morning embrace. Before your feet touch the floor, while you're still wrapped in the softness of your bed, wrap your arms around your own shoulders. Hold yourself the way you would hold a beloved child who had just awakened from a beautiful dream. Feel your own warmth, your own presence, the solid reality of your body that has carried you faithfully through every experience of your life. As you hold yourself, whisper, "Good morning, my love," as if you're greeting the most precious person in your world, because you are. Feel how your body melts into this embrace, how your nervous system relaxes when it realizes it's being held with love rather than criticized for existing. This practice teaches your body that love isn't something you have to go out and find. It's something you can give yourself right here, right now, in the privacy of your own morning awakening. The second practice honors the faithful companion that has never left your side. Place your hand over your heart and speak directly to this organ that has been devoted to keeping you alive every moment since you were born. Thank you, my heart, for beating all night while I slept. Thank you for keeping me alive while I was unconscious. Thank you for loving me even when I forgot to love myself. Feel the rhythm under your palm, that steady percussion that is the soundtrack of your existence. Your heart has never asked for praise or recognition. It has simply served, faithfully and without complaint. When you acknowledge its service, you're not just being grateful. You're establishing a conscious relationship with the part of yourself that knows how to love without condition. The third practice is what I call the declaration of openness. As you stretch in bed, feeling your muscles awaken and your joints remember their flexibility, say these words, "I am open to receive love today." Stretch your arms wide as you say it, making space in your body for love to enter. I am open to see love today. Open your eyes fully, preparing your vision to notice the 1,000 small ways love will show itself. I am open to feel love today. Place both hands on your chest, giving your heart permission to soften, to trust, to believe that today can be different from yesterday. I remember Esperanza, a nurse who had been divorced for 5 years and had convinced herself that love was for other people, younger people, luckier people. She chose the morning embrace practice because it felt the safest, the most private. She told me that for the first week, holding herself felt awkward, like hugging a stranger. But she persisted because something deep inside her was starving for gentle touch, even her own. By the 3rd week, she found herself looking forward to those few moments of self-embrace. I realized I'd been waiting for someone else to hold me the way I needed to be held, she told me. When I started holding myself that way, I stopped feeling so desperate for someone else to do it. And then, funny thing, people started being more affectionate with me naturally, as if I was finally safe to love. The 4th practice speaks to your body's wisdom about receiving. Still lying in bed, place one hand on your heart and one on your belly. Feel the rise and fall of your breath, the gentle expansion and contraction that has been sustaining you without your effort or anxiety. Say quietly, "My body knows how to receive life. My heart knows how to receive love. I trust this wisdom." Your body is an expert at receiving. It receives oxygen from the air, nutrients from food, rest from sleep, all without you having to think about it. Trust that this same wisdom can receive love when you offer it. The 5th practice is for those days when everything feels harder, when the resistance is strong and the old voices are loud. It's what I call the gentle rebellion. Sit up in bed and look around your room. Notice one thing that brings you comfort. Maybe it's the way the light falls across your pillow. Maybe it's a photo that makes you smile. Maybe it's simply the fact that you have a safe place to sleep. Focus on this one good thing and say, "In a world that sometimes feels harsh, I choose to notice what is tender. In a life that sometimes feels empty, I choose to find what is full. In a heart that sometimes feels unloved, I choose to remember what is always true. I am worthy of love." This practice isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about training your attention to find the light even when there are shadows. For those moments during the day when you forget, when the old feelings of being unloved creep back in, you have an anchor practice. Place your hand over your heart, take 3 conscious breaths, and say silently, "Life loves me now." This is your SOS for the soul, your emergency reminder that love is always available. You just have to remember to tune into its frequency. Each of these practices is a different way of having the same conversation with your heart. Choose the one that feels most natural today. Tomorrow, you might choose a different one. What matters isn't which practice you use, but that you use one. Your heart doesn't need perfection. It needs consistency, the daily reminder that it matters, that it's seen, that it's appreciated. But I want you to understand something deeper about what happens when you speak to your heart this way. There's an invisible laboratory inside you where every loving word you speak creates actual, measurable change. When you are ready to go deeper, when the simple practices feel natural and you want to expand your capacity to feel loved, there is a practice I call the morning love letter. Find paper and pen or open the Notes app on your phone. Imagine that life itself, the same intelligence that makes flowers bloom and hearts beat, is writing you a personal letter each morning. Let your hand write what life would say to you. Dear beloved, you are my masterpiece. Every breath you take is my declaration of love for you. I have loved you since before you knew your own name, and I will love you after you forget everything else. Write for just 3 minutes, letting love speak to you through your own hand. Read it aloud to yourself. This isn't imagination. This is recognition of what has always been true. For moments when you're out in the world and forget your worth, when someone's coldness or the day's difficulty makes you feel unloved again, you have what I call your SOS for the soul. No matter where you are, you can place your hand over your heart, take 3 conscious breaths, and say silently, "Life loves me now." This isn't a prayer or a wish. It's an emergency reminder, a way to call yourself home to truth when you've wandered into the territory of feeling forgotten. But what exactly happens in your body when you practice these words of love? Why does something as simple as saying, "Life loves me," create such profound shifts in how you feel? The science is as beautiful as the experience itself. When you speak words of love to yourself, you literally change your body's chemistry. The stress hormone cortisol begins to decrease, while oxytocin, the hormone associated with bonding and trust, increases. Your nervous system shifts from the sympathetic state of fight or flight into the parasympathetic state of rest and connection. This isn't just feeling good. This is your body receiving the chemical signals that tell every cell you are safe to open, safe to trust, safe to love and be loved. Your heart, that faithful organ that beats over 100,000 times per day, actually has its own brain. The heart contains over 40,000 neurons that form a complex nervous system capable of learning, remembering, and feeling independently of the brain in your head. When you place your hand on your heart and speak words of love, you're literally feeding this cardiac nervous system the information it needs to regulate your entire emotional state. The first 20 minutes after you wake up are what scientists call the hypnagogic state, when your brain waves are still in the alpha frequency and your subconscious mind is most receptive to new information. This is why your morning words have such power. You're programming your unconscious mind when its defenses are down, when it's most willing to accept new beliefs about who you are and how loved you are. Every loving thought you think creates new neural pathways in your brain. Each time you choose "Life loves me" instead of "I am alone," you're literally rewiring your brain for love instead of loneliness. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself throughout your life. You are not stuck with the neural patterns of feeling unloved. Every day, with every loving word, you are building superhighways to joy and peace. But here's what I find most beautiful. When you regularly flood your system with the chemistry of love through your words and attention, you begin to radiate a different frequency. People can feel when someone loves themselves. It shows in their posture, their voice, the light in their eyes. You become magnetic to love because you are vibrating at love's frequency. This isn't mystical thinking. This is energy science. Like attracts like, and self-love attracts more love from every direction. The changes happen gradually, like dawn breaking slowly over the horizon. You won't wake up tomorrow completely transformed, but you will wake up slightly different. And those slight differences, accumulated over days and weeks and months, create a life that feels entirely new. But I want to be completely honest with you about the journey ahead, because love isn't just about the light moments. There's a timeline to healing, and if you don't understand it, you might give up right before your breakthrough. Everyone who begins this journey asks the same question. How long until I really feel loved? How long until these words stop feeling foreign and start feeling true? I could give you a vague answer about everyone being different, but you deserve the truth based on what I've witnessed in thousands of people who've walked this path. The first 3 days are often the hardest. Your inner critic, that voice that has kept you feeling small and unloved, will fight against these new words like an immune system rejecting medicine. You may feel silly saying, "Life loves me." You may hear a voice that says, "This is ridiculous. You're too old for this. People will think you're crazy." This resistance isn't a sign you're doing it wrong. It's a sign you're doing something that threatens the old patterns that have kept you emotionally hungry. Days 4 through 7 bring what I call the first glimpse. Something subtle shifts. Maybe you catch yourself smiling for no reason while making coffee. Maybe you look in the mirror and don't immediately criticize what you see. Maybe you feel a moment of genuine tenderness toward yourself when you make a mistake. These moments are tiny, but they are revolutionary. They are proof that the new neural pathways are beginning to form. Weeks 2 through 4 are when the magic becomes noticeable. Your mornings naturally feel softer. You wake up, and instead of immediately thinking about what's wrong or what you have to do, there's a moment of simple gratitude for being alive. You start to notice things that were always there, but that you had trained yourself not to see. The way light moves across your wall, the faithfulness of your breath, the miracle that you exist at all. By the 2nd and 3rd month, something profound happens. Love for yourself stops feeling like work and starts feeling like nature. You don't have to remember to be gentle with yourself. Gentleness becomes your default. You don't have to force yourself to speak kindly. Kind words begin to flow naturally because you have retrained the voice in your head. Months 4 through 6 bring what I call the irradiation phase. You are no longer just feeling loved. You are radiating love. People comment that you seem different, lighter, more at peace. Opportunities that match your new frequency begin to appear. Relationships that felt difficult become easier because you are no longer looking to other people to fill the emptiness that you have learned to fill yourself. But understand this: healing is not a straight line. There will be mornings when you wake up feeling the old emptiness, when the words feel hollow again, when you wonder if you're just fooling yourself. These are not setbacks. These are what I call integration days, when your psyche is digesting all the love you've been feeding it. On these days, be especially gentle. Double the loving words instead of abandoning them. Remember that even the best gardens have seasons of rest between the blooms. I think of Clementine, a social worker who started this practice after years of giving so much love to others that she had forgotten how to save some for herself. In her 2nd month, she had what she called a terrible Tuesday, when everything seemed to go wrong, and she woke up feeling as empty as she had before starting the practice. Instead of giving up, she sent herself a text message, "Having a hard day, but still loved by life." She told me later that sending herself that message was the moment she realized she had truly become her own best friend. The framework is this: you begin with willingness, which requires nothing but openness to try. Willingness leads to recognition, where you start to notice the difference between loving thoughts and critical thoughts. Recognition grows into conscious choice, where you can choose love even when criticism feels more familiar. Choice practiced consistently becomes your new nature. And when love becomes your nature, it flows out of you effortlessly to everyone around you. Mark your progress, even the tiniest shifts. In the comments below, write which phase resonates with where you are now. Day 1, willing to try. Week 3, something is shifting. Or, month 2, finally feeling at home with myself. When you declare your progress publicly, it becomes real in a way that private thoughts cannot. And when you read others' progress, you'll see you're not alone in this journey from hunger to fullness. Now, knowing the timeline is important, but knowing the obstacles is essential. 5 specific voices will try to steal your progress, and I want you to be prepared for each one. On this journey back to feeling loved, 5 specific obstacles will appear in your mind like guards at the gate, trying to keep you from entering the garden of your own heart. These aren't random difficulties. These are predictable patterns that I've seen in every person who has ever tried to love themselves back to life. When you recognize them, they lose their power to stop you. The first obstacle is what I call the shame of needing. This voice says, strong people don't need to talk to themselves. Independent people don't need affirmations. You should be beyond this by now. This voice comes from a culture that taught you love is weakness and self-reliance is strength. But the truth is exactly the opposite. It takes tremendous courage to speak lovingly to yourself when the world has trained you to be your own worst critic. When this voice appears, respond gently. Needing love is not weakness. It's human. And giving myself love is the strongest thing I can do. I remember Thaddeus, a construction foreman who was embarrassed to tell anyone he was saying, "Life loves me" every morning until he realized that the practice made him calmer with his crew, more patient with mistakes, more effective as a leader. Turns out, loving myself made me better at everything else too, he told me. The second obstacle is the comparison that steals joy. This voice says, other people wake up next to someone who loves them. Other people have families who call them. Other people don't need to manufacture love for themselves. This voice wants you to believe that self-love is a consolation prize for people who can't find real love. But this thinking is backwards. Self-love is not the consolation prize. It's the foundation that makes all other love possible. When this voice speaks, answer with truth. I am building the foundation of love that will attract more love. I am not lacking love. I am generating it. Think of Imogene, who spent years envying her married friends until she realized that many of them were in relationships but still felt unloved because they hadn't learned to love themselves first. The third obstacle is the memory of the rejected. This voice says, if your own mother couldn't love you properly, if your ex-husband left you, if your children don't call, how can you possibly love yourself? The evidence is clear that you are unlovable. This voice confuses other people's limitations with your worth. When someone couldn't love you the way you deserved, it was never about your lovability. It was about their capacity. When this voice arises, speak firmly. Other people's inability to love me fully says nothing about my worth. I am learning to love myself the way I always deserved to be loved. Remember that every person who failed to love you properly was also a person who never learned to love themselves properly. The fourth obstacle is the urgency that kills tenderness. This voice says, I don't have time for these morning practices. I'm already running late. Life is too busy for this love nonsense. I have real problems to solve. This voice has been trained by a world that values doing over being, productivity over peace. But the 5 minutes you spend loving yourself in the morning will make the other 16 hours of your day flow more easily. When this voice creates panic, breathe slowly and respond. Love is not a luxury. It's the fuel that makes everything else possible. I have time for what matters most. Consider Beatrice, a single mother of 3 who thought she didn't have time for morning practices until she realized that the days she started with self-love were the days she had more patience with her children and more energy for everything that mattered. The fifth and most dangerous obstacle is the test before the transformation. This voice appears just when your practice is beginning to work, when you're starting to feel genuinely loved and lovable. It says, this is too good to last. You're setting yourself up for disappointment. Remember all the other times you thought things were getting better and then everything fell apart? This voice is your psyche's last attempt to keep you in the familiar territory of feeling unloved, because familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar joy. When this voice whispers its warnings, stand firm in your new truth. I am not the same person who was hurt before. I am learning to love myself so completely that external circumstances cannot shake my inner foundation. Each of these voices believes it is protecting you. Thank them for their concern, but do not let them make your choices. They are echoes from a time when you didn't know how to love yourself home. Now you do. Every morning when you place your hand on your heart and remember that life loves you, you are choosing love over the voices of fear. And love, practiced consistently, always wins. But how will you know it's working? How will you recognize that your capacity to feel loved is actually expanding? The signs are subtle but unmistakable once you know what to watch for. Transformation doesn't announce itself with trumpets and fanfare. It arrives like dawn, so gradually that you may not notice it's happening until you realize the darkness is gone. Learning to feel loved again happens in layers, in moments so small they might seem insignificant until you understand that all great changes are built from tiny shifts in awareness. The first signs are invisible to everyone but you. You begin to wake up 1 or 2 seconds before your alarm goes off, and instead of dread, there's something that might almost be called curiosity. What will today bring? Your breathing changes too. Instead of the tight, shallow breaths of someone bracing for impact, you find yourself taking one deep breath that seems to fill not just your lungs, but your whole chest with something that feels like space. Your dreams begin to shift. Where once you dreamed of being chased or lost or unprepared, you begin having dreams of flying, of discovering beautiful rooms in your house you never knew existed, of conversations with people who see and appreciate who you really are. The internal signs are ones you feel but don't necessarily share yet. You catch yourself laughing at your own mistakes instead of creating a mental drama about them. When someone criticizes you, instead of the words landing in your chest like stones, they seem to bounce off some invisible shield you didn't know you had developed. You stop checking your phone obsessively, looking for messages that will validate your worth because you're beginning to find that validation in your morning conversation with yourself. When you pass mirrors, you don't automatically look away or begin the familiar inventory of flaws. Sometimes you even catch your own eye and think something kind. I remember Cordelia, a librarian who had been practicing for 6 weeks when she realized she was walking differently. I was crossing the street, she told me, and I caught my reflection in a store window. My shoulders weren't hunched forward like I was trying to disappear. I was walking like someone who had a right to take up space. She hadn't tried to change her posture. It had changed because her internal relationship with herself had changed. The external signs are the ones other people notice before you do. Someone at work asks if you've changed your hair or lost weight, when what's actually different is the light in your eyes. Conflicts that used to escalate seem to dissolve naturally, not because you're avoiding them, but because you're no longer carrying the charge of someone who feels fundamentally unworthy. People begin seeking you out, wanting to spend time with you, though you can't quite put your finger on why. Children and animals are drawn to you because they can sense the peace you're radiating. Opportunities begin appearing in ways that feel almost magical, but are actually quite logical. When you stop vibrating the frequency of desperation and need, you become magnetic to the very things you were chasing. The job offer comes. The invitation arrives. The conversation you needed happens naturally. This isn't luck. This is alignment. When you love yourself, you send a clear signal to the universe about how you expect to be treated, and life responds accordingly. I think of Roscoe, a graphic designer who had been struggling to find clients for 2 years. 3 months after beginning his morning practice, his business began growing so quickly, he had to hire help. I didn't change my marketing or my prices, he told me, but I changed how I felt about myself, and suddenly people could feel my confidence in my work. When you know you are loved, you stop settling for treatment that suggests otherwise. One of the most beautiful external signs is that conflicts decrease without you trying to avoid them. When you are full of self-love, you don't absorb other people's emotional chaos. Their anger bounces off your peace. Their criticism doesn't stick to your sense of worth. You can listen to feedback without your entire identity being threatened. You become like a lake on a calm day, so still that even the smallest pebble creates visible ripples, so clear that you can see all the way to the bottom. There's also what I call the magnet effect. Because you are no longer desperate for love, because you are generating it from within, you begin attracting people who are also healthy and whole, rather than people who want to use you to fill their own emptiness. Quality relationships replace quantity connections. You find yourself surrounded by people who see and appreciate your true nature because you have learned to see and appreciate it first. But perhaps the most profound sign is what happens to your relationship with solitude. Where once being alone felt like punishment, like evidence that you were unlovable, it begins to feel like sanctuary. You enjoy your own company. You look forward to quiet mornings with yourself. You no longer need constant external stimulation to avoid the discomfort of being with your own thoughts because your thoughts have become kind companions rather than harsh critics. Genevieve, a nurse practitioner, told me about the moment she knew her practice was working. I was home alone on a Saturday night, something that would have made me feel pathetic 6 months earlier. But I was making myself a beautiful dinner, had lit candles, put on music I loved. I looked around at the peace I had created and thought, I am such good company for myself. It was the first time in my 47 years that I genuinely enjoyed being alone with me. Watch for these signs with the same attention you would give to the first green shoots in a garden after winter. Celebrate each one, no matter how small. Progress in love is measured in moments, not milestones. The fact that you woke up this morning and chose to listen to words about loving yourself is already a sign that something is shifting. You are not the same person who began this journey. You cannot be, because love changes everything it touches, and it has been touching you from the moment you decided you were worthy of your own affection. Now let me tell you about someone whose transformation will show you that what seems impossible today can become inevitable tomorrow. Her name was Serafina, and when I first met her, she was 52 years old and convinced that her capacity for feeling loved had been permanently damaged. She had been through a divorce that felt like a demolition of everything she thought she knew about herself. Her husband of 23 years had left her for someone younger, and her 3 children, now in college, seemed to orbit around their father's new life, while treating her like a satellite that had lost its gravitational pull. Every morning, Serafina woke at 5:30 to a house that felt like a museum of her former life. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was accusatory, as if the walls themselves were whispering that she had failed at the most basic human task of being lovable enough to keep. The first thought that greeted her each morning wasn't hope or gratitude, or even simple acknowledgement that she had survived another night. It was a voice that said, with increasing authority, "Nobody would notice if you just didn't wake up tomorrow." She would lie in bed for exactly 7 minutes every morning, not because she was resting, but because those 7 minutes represented the last refuge before she had to face the bathroom mirror that would show her a woman she no longer recognized. When she finally forced herself up, her reflection revealed someone who looked startled to be alive, as if she couldn't quite believe she had made it through another night of sleeping alone with her grief. The kitchen, where she had made thousands of family breakfasts, felt like a crime scene. The silence was so complete she could hear her own heartbeat, and she began to resent even that sound because it reminded her that she was still here, still taking up space, still requiring the world to acknowledge her existence when it seemed increasingly clear that the world would prefer she fade quietly into the background. She went through the motions of her day teaching 3rd grade, where she was beloved by children who saw only her kindness and patience, not the emptiness that felt like a cavern inside her chest. But even their innocent affection couldn't fill the space where her sense of being loved had lived. She felt like a person playing the role of herself, competent and caring on the surface, but hollow underneath, as if someone had carefully removed all her vital organs and left only the shell. The breaking point came on a Thursday morning in March, when she woke up and the first thought that entered her mind was so dark it frightened her into action. Maybe everyone would be happier if I just disappeared. She sat up in bed, terrified by the calm way this thought had presented itself, as if it were a reasonable solution to consider. That afternoon, she called the counseling center, not because she was suicidal, but because she realized she had forgotten how to want to be alive. The therapist, a gentle woman named Dr. Martinez, listened to Serafina's story and then said something that confused her. "You're not broken. You're just hungry. You've been living on emotional crumbs for so long, you've forgotten what a feast feels like." She explained that Serafina had spent decades pouring love outward, toward her husband, who took it for granted, and her children who needed it. But she had never learned to turn that same generous love toward herself. "Doctor, Martinez suggested what seemed like the simplest assignment in the world. Every morning before you get out of bed, I want you to place your hand on your heart and say 3 times, "Life loves me." That's all. Don't worry about believing it. Just say it. Serafina left the office thinking this was the most ridiculous therapeutic intervention she had ever heard of, but she was desperate enough to try anything. The first morning, she put her hand on her chest and whispered, "Life loves me," and immediately began crying so hard she had to call in sick to work. She hadn't realized how much rage she carried toward life, how angry she was at a universe that had allowed her to be discarded like something that had outlived its usefulness. The words felt not just false, but cruel, like being told to smile while someone was stabbing her. But something Dr. Martinez had said stayed with her. Your heart has been broken, but it hasn't stopped beating. Every beat is life saying, "I choose you," over and over again. So she tried again the next morning, and the morning after that. The tears came every day for 2 weeks, but they began to feel less like grief and more like relief, as if she were crying out years of accumulated sadness. By the 3rd week, something shifted. She woke up one morning and said, "Life loves me," and instead of crying, she felt a tiny flutter in her chest that might have been hope. It was so small she almost missed it, but it was there, a whisper of possibility that maybe she wasn't as unloved as she thought. The 4th week brought what she later called the first kindness. She was making coffee and caught her reflection in the microwave door. Instead of the usual inventory of everything wrong with her face, she heard herself think, "You have kind eyes." It was such an unfamiliar thought that she actually looked around to see if someone else had spoken. When she realized the kindness had come from her own mind, she started crying again, but this time from amazement. Month 2 was when she began to believe that change might actually be possible. She started waking up 3 minutes before her alarm, not from anxiety, but from what felt like anticipation. The silence in her house began to feel less like accusation and more like peace. She found herself humming while she made breakfast, something she hadn't done since before her marriage ended. The breakthrough came on a random Tuesday morning in month 3. She was standing in her kitchen, sunlight streaming through the window, and she looked at the empty house around her and thought, "This is beautiful. I am building a beautiful life." The thought was so unexpected, so contrary to everything she had believed about her circumstances, that she actually laughed out loud. In that moment, she realized she was no longer the woman who had been abandoned. She was the woman who was choosing herself. 6 months later, when people began commenting that she seemed different, lighter somehow, she would tell them about her morning practice. "I learned to be the love I was looking for," she would say. "I learned that I never needed someone else to make me feel lovable. I needed to remember that I already was." 2 years after that first difficult morning, Serafina remarried, but this time from a place of fullness rather than emptiness. "The difference," she told me, "is that I'm not looking for someone to complete me. I'm looking for someone to celebrate with. I fell in love with my own life first, and then I found someone who fell in love with it too." But perhaps the most beautiful part of her story is what she said when I asked her what she was most grateful for. "I'm grateful for the mornings when I wake up alone, because now I know I'm waking up with someone who loves me completely. Me." This story could be your story. The transformation Serafina experienced isn't unique or extraordinary. It's what happens when someone decides to speak to themselves the way life has been speaking to them all along. Now let's seal this possibility into your own life. Place your hand over your heart now and feel that faithful rhythm that has been with you through every word of this journey. Your heart has been listening to everything we've shared together. It has been taking in every story, every possibility, every moment of hope. Feel how it beats for you, how it has beaten for you every single day of your existence without asking for praise or recognition or proof that you deserve its service. This is not just the end of our time together. This is the moment when everything we've explored becomes sealed in the sacred chamber of your own heart. You are not simply finishing a conversation about love. You are claiming your birthright as someone who is loved unconditionally by life itself. I want you to repeat these words with me, and as you say them, feel them landing not just in your mind, but in your body, in your bones, in every cell that has been waiting to hear this truth spoken with authority. We'll say this 3 times, each time with more power, more certainty, more complete surrender to what you have always known in your deepest heart. First, in a whisper, as if you're sharing a secret with your soul. I am loved. I have always been loved. I will always be loved. Feel how your voice sounds different when you speak words of truth to yourself. Feel how your throat softens when it's not being used to criticize, but to bless. Whisper it again. I am loved. I have always been loved. I will always be loved. Let the words fall into your chest like gentle rain on thirsty ground. Now in your normal voice, with the confidence of someone who is stating a fact about the nature of reality, I am loved. I have always been loved. I will always be loved. Feel how your posture changes when you claim this truth. Feel how your breathing deepens when you stop fighting against love and start receiving it. Say it again with me. I am loved. I have always been loved. I will always be loved. This is not hope. This is recognition. Now with complete authority, as if you are making a decree that reorganizes the entire universe around this truth. I am loved. I have always been loved. I will always be loved. Feel the power in your own voice when it speaks truth instead of criticism. Feel how the words reverberate through your entire being, waking up every part of you that had fallen asleep to love. Once more, with absolute certainty, I am loved. I have always been loved. I will always be loved. Feel the silence that follows these words. This is not empty silence. This is fullness. This is the sound of truth settling into every corner of your being where doubt used to live. Your body knows when you speak truth to it. It relaxes. It opens. It remembers what it felt like before the world taught you to question your worth. Now we claim not just what you are, but who you are. Say with me, I am the love I have been searching for. I always have been. I always will be. This is your identity, not your aspiration. This is what was true before anyone told you otherwise. This is what remains true no matter who comes or goes from your life. You are not seeking love. You are love seeking to remember itself. And now we seal this truth into your life with words that cannot be undone, words that reorganize reality itself around the fact of your belovedness. And so, it is sealed. Feel how these words land in your chest like a key turning in a lock. And so it remains. Feel how this truth becomes unshakable, permanent, written into the very fabric of who you are. And it cannot be otherwise. Feel how this love becomes inevitable, inescapable, the ground upon which you will walk for all the days of your life. And so it is. Rest in this knowing. Rest in this completion. Rest in this homecoming to yourself. 57 minutes together, and your heart has been listening to every word. If that heart touched you, if something in your chest stirred with recognition when we spoke of remembering love that was never really lost, then there are new teachings here every week, each one a different doorway to the same beautiful destination, remembering who you have always been. Subscribe when your soul whispers that it's ready for more conversations like this one. In the comments below, declare your commitment to this new relationship with yourself. Write simply, I am loved, or Day 1 of remembering, or finally coming home to myself. When you make this declaration publicly, you anchor it into reality. When you read the declarations of others, you'll see that you are part of a community of people who are choosing to love themselves back to life. And if you feel moved to support this work, if these words have fed something in you that was hungry, there's a way to offer that support in the first pinned comment. This isn't obligation. This is circulation. When you give from fullness rather than emptiness, you keep the energy of love moving through the world. When you receive without shame, you teach others that they too are worthy of support. Giving and receiving are the same breath of love, and love grows when it flows. 57 minutes ago, you were someone who was looking for love. Now you are someone who has remembered that you are love. This isn't a small shift. This is a complete revolution in how you relate to yourself and therefore to all of life. Life has always loved you. It was just waiting for your consent to feel it. Your new life has already begun. Not tomorrow when you wake up and practice these words. Not next week when you've done this for 7 days. But right now, in this breath, in this awareness, in this quiet and beautiful moment of recognizing what was never really lost. Every morning from now on, when you place your hand on your heart and remember that life loves you, you are not trying to convince yourself of something that might be true. You are remembering something that has always been true. You are coming home to yourself. You are waking up, beloved. And so it is.